So you had found something on Twitter that I couldn't believe was real. I thought it was like right-wing alarmism.
You doubted
sure.
me.
I really thought...
You doubted me
it
and
was-
my judgment. You said I was crazy.
Well, I thought, again, it happens all the time where, you know, people on the right will just take some weird fringe person in the California Assembly, which there are many, who will propose something insane, and they'll be like, look what they're trying to do in California.
California, you mean?
Damn right. So that, I assume that's what was happening with this. It was a guy talking about the government of California wants to track where you drive and charge you for every mile that you drive a tax.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
So I thought there's no way. There's no way people are going to do that. Right? And then, so I was just like, yeah, I wouldn't worry about it.
Oh, woman. Always worried about
that seems
stuff.
crazy. Don't worry about it. And then like 2 days later,
What happened?
you say what happened because you got an email.
I got an email from the California DMV.
Read the email.
Okay, it said, help California plan for the future and earn up to $400.
What?
Did
That
you-
sounds like a great deal.
It does, because I can help people and earn money.
And plan for the future.
Yes. Okay, so did you know that each time you fill up your vehicle with gas, a small portion of that goes to pay to repair roads and bridges? As Californians drive more hybrid and electric vehicles, the money for critical infrastructure repairs from gas tax will be less and less. It's terrible. Our partner, Caltrans, is planning the future for the future by testing a road charge, an idea to pay fees on the miles we drive instead of the gallons of gas we buy to support road maintenance. Caltrans needs a variety of people to participate and share what they think about this new system. Will you help? Participate, earn $400, report miles for 6 months, pay road charge fees each month, get gas tax credit on used gas, complete 2 surveys. Will I sign up now?
When you forwarded that to me, I couldn't believe it. I was like, very rarely do I lose. I've hit a point where I can't believe I can lose more faith in society, but this really shook me.
Yeah, because they want to put a GPS tracker on your car, install it in your car.
All of your cars have GPS. This is where it's complicated, right? And this is where I think we've heard, because I've been screaming about this to people. You've been screaming about this to people.
Yes.
The corporations are tracking us all the time. Your phone's
Yeah.
tracking you. Your car has a GPS. Like Toyota's tracking me.
I'm tracking you.
Right. Your car doesn't have a GPS.
No, I don't do any of that bullshit because I know what's up.
So
I know exactly what's up and what they're up to.
So what they would be able to do with my car is just to access my information through my GPS thing. Your car, they would give you a device that would track you.
I want to put a device in my car. I specifically have a car with nothing on it because I know what they did to that guy in the Fast and the Furious. I know. The guy that died. Paul Walker.
You think that was a hit?
No, I used to be crazy into conspiracies, and I realize it's probably he's probably driving too fast. But nevertheless, I've been so suspicious of having anything in my car that I can't control.
Right.
Even the windows that you roll down, that always kind of bugs me out, but there's no option for that.
Yeah, you can't get a manual window now.
I would get a manual window if I could. But yeah, my car is straight up, I control my car.
Your mother was a diesel mechanic, right?
Yeah, she was.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's
So
cool.
she could fix a car. I can't fix a car, but I know full well I'm not going to have some stranger tracking it. What if someone at the company doesn't like me for some reason?
Yeah.
You don't know.
So I looked it up because I wanted to see, like, what's the defense of this from?
Yeah.
the
So are you
state.
serious? Yeah.
So on the LAist.com, they answer some questions that you may have about the whole situation. So according to the LAist.com, I'm just going to read it. John Schilling, who lives in South Lake Tahoe and regularly travels to Nevada, asked LAist how the pilot program keeps track of the number of miles driven in neighboring states. Prahoda said it depends on which option you choose for the pilot. There's 3 choices available for reporting miles. You can keep it simple and upload a picture of your odometer each month. You can have a device shipped to your home that plugs into the vehicle and shares GPS location data, or you can set up vehicle telematics in newer models that have connected account through Tesla, BMW, Hyundai, and other manufacturers. So if you are
Like us. Really suspicious of the government.
and is not going to do homework every month.
Asking
I have to
people
do homework?
every month is a lot. Once a year, maybe you can get away with because they're already asking you to register your car, to get it smog checked.
And a photo? Like, who's going to, like, you can doctor a photo pretty easy, I think. And I think eventually this is just going to become everybody gets tracked.
Yeah, I mean, the only way I can see doing it is if they went for your smog check, if they made smog checks every year. Now they're every other year, but I guess that wouldn't even apply to electric vehicles. But more than that, if you don't opt for the GPS tracker, they will charge you for every mile driven out of state. So
Right.
they kind of strong arm you into getting it.
Yeah. So if you drive out of state, so basically they're saying we need to charge people for the wear and tear on the roads in California. So a GPS tracker will prove the miles that you drove in California. And if you don't want to go with a GPS tracker, too bad for you. Even if you drive cross country for an emergency, you're going to be taxed for every mile on your odometer.
And the way they're going to word that, it's going to make people think that they're doing them a favor by giving them the GPS tracker. Of course they will.
Yeah. And when it comes to the cents per mile, somebody asked, is the state charging the same amount for large trucks as it does for small cars? Part of that, so one rate group, yes, whatever kind of car you own, you're going to be charged 2.8 cents per mile for that rate group.
That doesn't make any sense.
Yes. There's some stuff about like maybe it'll be different depending on the fuel efficiency of your vehicle.
It should.
But that has nothing to do with wear and tear on the road, which is kind of the entire point of this. Now, the global warming kind of gets thrown in as a way that they can charge you more, which this is the pilot program.
Yeah.
In my estimation, it's going to end up being everybody gets a GPS tracker, and we start seeing crazy charges for people like me who own a pickup truck for work.
Your registration is already like $500 a year.
Yeah.
It's obscene.
It's crazy.
Yeah, and it's just a truck.
So even outside of like the obvious problems of like the government telling everyone, yeah, we're just going to keep track of where you are at all times.
And it seems to be like, oh yeah, we're just gonna track you. Yeah, we're just gonna do that. And if someone had said this 20 years ago, people would be like, absolutely not, I won't do this. This is like when we were mad about the Patriot Act, which infringed on our personal liberties. And now people are just like, well, how are they supposed to get the money for the potholes? I'm gonna tell this one story about California and their road services. We have trees that come down in the neighborhood, and we had a small branch that came down in the neighborhood. Yeah. And you call the city and you have them come out. They came out 4 days later, and this is a branch you could have put in a green bin.
I could have put it in the bed of my truck.
Yeah, it really wasn't a big branch. So they moved it to the side and put cones around it. So this guy came out for an hour to move it to the side to put cones around it. So what is that? What is he getting paid an hour? Plus benefits, medical.
And he came in a truck that was capable of like just put the branch in the truck.
Yeah, it's a very easy thing. And then a few days after that, like we needed the cones, like anyone was messing with the branch anyway. Then 2 trucks came out and they had a whole thing, like 6 guys to get this little branch onto a truck and get it out of the way. So this is where the city is spending the money. And this is where the state, no, this is the city specifically, but the state is the same exact way.
Yeah. And my experience with California road maintenance is when we moved offices, we moved up to a bigger place somewhere else in the city, and when we moved in, there was construction on a main road that like connects to Home Depot, and like it was a huge pain in the ass. For the first year we were in that place, and the lady that manages the place said that they had been working on that same stretch of road for 2 years.
Oh my God.
And a year after that, they had to replace all the gas lines in front of our building, and they got that done in 2 weeks. And I was like, what the hell? And I had to coordinate with those gas people a little bit because we do shows and stuff. And the guy was like, I was like, how are you doing this so fast? They were working on that road up there for like 3 years. And he's like, oh, they let us know what they're going to pay us, and that's it. Those guys get paid by the day, like whatever it takes.
That's mob stuff. It's who's getting the contracts and all this other stuff. So I don't believe for a minute. That's not some guy's friend who got those contracts.
Right. But it comes down to that idea outside of the tracking. It's like California has been pushing a electric and hybrid cars very, very hard. Like
Yeah,
huge
you're not going to be able
incentives.
to. You're not going to be able to get a regular car past 2030.
Right. 20. What was it?
2030.
2030. They're going to ban gas car sales in California, which
We'll be gone by then.
will be gone.
We'll be gone.
And as much as I support electric vehicles, like honestly, I really do.
Where are they getting the lithium from?
I know there are many, many.
Yeah,
problems.
there's a lot of questions.
There's a lot of problems.
Yeah.
But regardless, I support generally the idea of electric
If
and
they're
hybrid
better
cars.
for the environment,
Of
yes.
course. The problem is California's energy grid can't support everybody driving an electric car. Like that's not something you can just talk your way around. Like
Oh, because they actually don't have electricity for all
Yeah,
this.
we
Because we have
can't-
brownouts.
yeah, you can't all. If everybody got an electric car tomorrow, the grid would be useless.
Especially in August.
Right.
They did not think this through.
So there's that.
The practicality of it.
But California has the most expensive gas in the country because of the taxes put on the gas. And as people are using less and less gas, they're getting less and less taxes. So now they have to be like, all right, well, now we got to figure out a way to tax people more for
They have to
something.
tax them by the mile if they're driving electric. They got to
Right.
figure out a way to I don't know, raise the price of electricity or whatever they're going to do, because that's what it means. But regardless,
Well, this is what roadcharge.com says.
yeah.
Replacing California's gas tax. RoadCharge is an alternative funding mechanism that allows drivers
Ooh.
to support road and highway maintenance based on how many miles they drive instead of how many gallons of gas they use. Just like you pay your gas and electric bills based on how much of these utilities you use, a RoadCharge, also called a mileage-based user fee, is a fair and sustainable way to fund road maintenance, preservation, and improvements for all Californians. Instead of paying the state's gas tax, which disproportionately impacts those who cannot afford more fuel-efficient vehicles,
That's true. That's fair.
yeah, everyone would pay a per-mile fee for how much they use the road, regardless of what kind of car they drive. So, yeah, it's one of those things where it's like, yeah, I guess it sort of
It
is
sounds
fine.
good, but in order to do this, you have to track people. Now, do
Right.
we know, let's say a murder is committed where you happen to be. Is the government going to have access to that?
Yeah, they're going to say no, but you remember 23andMe?
Yeah, 23, of course.
We
They
were-
lied about
everybody
23
said we were
and me.
crazy.
Yeah,
Oh
we
my
were right
God.
about that too. I'm tired of being right about things too early. I'm tired of it because everyone says you're nuts and then wait 2 years, and what happens? Yes, they're tracking you through your DNA.
Yeah,
they can track
23andMe
your cousin's cousin.
I always said when people were really big on 23andMe, I was like, absolutely not. I'm not giving somebody my DNA. Like,
No.
who gives a shit where I'm from? Who cares?
Yeah.
And everybody was like, oh, you're crazy. And then they caught the Golden State Killer.
Which good.
Fine. Good.
Yeah.
No good.
I mean, that guy sucks.
But they caught him by tracing his brother's DNA because he did one of these DNA services. And they were like, oh, he has the same DNA profile as the Golden State Killer. Must be a sibling, right? Boom. Got him. And everybody was like, isn't this great? And I was like, this is exactly what you said they weren't going to do. Because everybody was saying all along, like, that's crazy. They say right here they're not going to share the DNA. But they were sharing the DNA database with law enforcement. They just straight up were doing it, even
Yeah.
though they told you they weren't. And then when I pointed out, everybody still says I'm crazy.
Yeah, because, okay, here's the thing. You're trading your civil liberties, you're trading your privacy for security.
Mm-hmm.
That's the trade. And it's great when it's a serial killer.
Mm-hmm.
But let's say they want to do something to you.
Let's say they roll out some sort of vaccine that you don't want to get.
Well, that was the test. Okay. And this is what I've said, because you said I was crazy when I sent this to you. And I don't know why you said I was crazy. You thought that people wouldn't go along with this?
I really thought that this would be too far because
There's no way it's too far.
We pay taxes. The California taxes are so high.
No, but morally speaking, this isn't too far from them, because after what they did for COVID, I've always said that was a test run.
Mm-hmm.
That was a test run to see how far you could push people.
Mm-hmm.
And you can push people all the way. People here will not push back no matter what you do. That's what they learned. It was a full green light, full speed ahead to anything they wanted to do.
Yeah. The official numbers are in California, 85% of the population got at least one shot.
We are in a small minority of people who completely held out.
Yeah.
Because in LA, I bet the numbers for LA are actually much higher because there are places you couldn't go if you didn't get that.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And everybody went along with it. Very few people spoke up. And if you spoke up, people criticized you.
Mm-hmm.
People outright criticized you.
Even though all of the data available to everyone showed that it was essentially ineffective at preventing transmission.
Yeah.
So really, by the end of it, the only argument they had was that, well, it'll help you if you get COVID.
And what does this have to do with me going
And I'm like,
into
I'm
a
already
place?
not at all in an at-risk population group.
But it doesn't have one thing to do with the other.
No.
If you're saying we have to get vaccinated so that we can go into the bar, but it doesn't prevent transmission, automatically that all gets thrown out the window.
Doesn't make sense. And
But nobody cared.
Right.
Nobody cared that it didn't make any
Nobody
sense.
cared.
That was actually one of those things where I'm like, oh, these people will do anything. They'll do absolutely anything. So, okay.
And I think we could talk about this on YouTube now. Because remember, there was a point where you couldn't even
couldn't say
suggest
anything.
You couldn't even suggest that it came from a lab, that it was a lab leak
Yeah.
virus. And now everybody's pretty damn sure it came from a lab.
Oh, what's funny about, back to this story about them tracking you, is that we looked it up on YouTube and they put up a fact check.
Mm-hmm.
They put up a fact check to debunk. They
So
were
if
like,
you put into YouTube California road tax,
yeah.
a fact check thing comes up and it says claim
Yeah.
California will charge 30 cents per miles driven or something like that. And they say false.
False.
But then when you click on the false, what does it say?
It goes to a QR code that you have to scan and then go to the article. You go to the article and it says false. They're not charging 30 cents a gallon. It'll be less than that. Shut the fuck up. You guys are the most lying, deceptive group of reptiles that could possibly exist.
Yeah, it's
Because no one's going to scan the QR code. No one's going to go to that article.
right. I'm listening to right now In Defense of Elitism by what's his name? It's Joel
Stein.
Joel Stein.
Yeah.
And it's sort of a tongue-in-cheek kind of like, oh, well, there's common ground between us liberal elites or us city people elites or whatever who kind of run the world. And he's like, yeah, we do, but we should. And, you know, these Baptist communities, I'm only on the first, like, couple hundred pages. These Baptist communities in rural Texas, like, you know, there's common ground there. It's very tongue-in-cheeky, and it's actually very funny. I liked him
He's
a
a
lot.
We'll see if he's a Nazi. We'll
But
see.
yeah, a lot of his claims are that what doesn't seem tongue in cheek is like, well, elites do need to rule the world because scientifically our brains are more tuned to like looking at things objectively, having patience, like making long-term investments for the good of
So you're
whatever
saying
we're trying
they're
to make the good of.
smarter and they have more impulse control and they're more altruistic. Is that his point?
I believe that is the idea.
But the problem with that is midwits are a huge problem because they're overconfident. That meme of the really dumb people and the really smart people, even just going on instinct, it's like, and I've always said this, dumb people would be like, well, doesn't sound good. And
Right.
midwits would be like, you have to analyze this, and this, and this, and this, and this paper. And then the really smart guy will be like, well, my instincts have developed over millions of years. I'm going to trust it over a few years of science.
Yeah.
And ultimately it comes out to that because science can be schemed.
Of
Anyone
course.
can scheme this shit.
So what he's really talking about is like an elite group of people who are like highly Ivy League educated.
Oh, we've seen how great the Ivies are recently.
Yes, exactly. I'm gonna get there.
Okay.
This cabal, as the populists would call it, versus like a populist movement. And what he says is that a populist movement is rooted in like, show me. If I can't see it, why should I believe it? That kind of mentality, which again, I understand because the world is a very complicated place. Set
And
up with
I'll argue very few, if any, individuals of any level of intelligence understand it, let alone this cabal he's speaking of.
right. And
All
the
right.
system, but again, the systems in place are very complicated. Like things aren't going to always be as they appear, right?
This-
And
yeah,
there's
it
nothing
wasn't me.
nefarious to that, right?
She saw me hit it on the counter. It wasn't me. All right, go on. I'm listening.
But-
I'm taking you seriously.
But he he quotes Stephen Colbert in the very first episode of the Colbert Report, which was brilliant. And this actually shows me how the times have truly changed.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just going to play it. I'm just going to play him reading.
This is a book on tape.
Yeah, this is his book in defense of elitism.
Stephen Colbert mocked this religion of instinct. Folks, we are a divided nation. Not between Democrats and Republicans or conservatives and liberals or tops and bottoms. No, we are divided between those who think with their head and those who know with their heart. Because that's where the truth comes from, ladies and gentlemen, the gut.
So Stephen Colbert, in saying that, is basically mocking the right, because at that time, yes, that was a fair characterization of the right, that they know with their heart compared to the smart liberals who think with their head. Yeah. How has that explain to me how that hasn't completely reversed? Because in everything from like COVID and just because if you knew too much about the information, people were like, well, why do you know so much about this information?
Yeah, what do you do and why are you so suspicious?
You're being real suspicious of it. I know with my heart that I have to get this vaccine.
Well, they were propagandized.
Yeah, so what I'm saying is the idea that we used to mock the right for feeling with their heart rather than thinking with their brain and putting their heart above their brain. How is it different from how the left operates right now across pretty much every like foundational leftist belief that has emerged over the last 5 years? A lot of it isn't necessarily even rooted in like our shared reality. If you think about the trans stuff a little bit, the idea that we have to say, like, not just respect that people are trans and should be respected, but we have to all say that there is no biological reality to
trans
sex.
Women are women.
That's not...
Say it.
Exactly.
Say
if you
it.
don't say it, you're out. That is not a think with your brain belief. That is a feel with your heart belief.
That's empathy. So they're weaponizing empathy. They weaponized fear.
Right.
So these are all emotions. These are not thoughts. Yeah.
And that Colbert clip was what, 25 years ago?
Jeez. I don't know. It's under Bush
No,
one.
it was after 9/11, so that was like 20 years ago.
Something like that.
But that is a
180.
perfect example of how the left has lost its mind. And it's the same thing on the right. The Trump stuff is the same amount of feeling with your heart. Again, he's already been president. He
didn't fix the stuff then.
Hillary's not in jail. I saw some stuff on Twitter the other day that said Hillary is in jail, or Hillary was executed already.
When?
So this level of cope that all of this Q stuff was just completely fake. It has gone to, not only was it real, but they already did all the stuff we wanted them to do. So we could just move on.
You know what? I believe enough people will fall for it. Because you have faith in people. I know. If they're told it, they're going to believe it.
But they say that the Hillary that we see is a clone or a actor or whatever, and that she was because Donald Trump is still president and in control of the military, and that all of this is a show. And that is the Q cope.
Wow.
That is feeling with your heart.
That's on the extreme
Yeah.
of the right.
And it's brilliant to be able to see it on Twitter. Because before Elon's Twitter emerged and with all of its many, many problems, it'd be hard to find that kind of stuff. I'm getting recommended this stuff.
Elon's
because I click
Twitter,
on it and read it.
Yeah, because, I realized a lot of the stuff we're looking at like a train crash and we can't look away.
Yeah.
And so we get more of it recommended to us, but it's like, no, this is jarring to me.
Yeah.
They make absolutely no sense.
I do think there is a forming some kind of nebulous, like middle
centrist,
like whatever
pragmatic.
it is that we are, where it's like I do try to look at every issue objectively.
This needs to be together in 30 years when Roman is older. We need to leave him a functioning country as best we can.
Yeah.
And that's it.
This road tax.
Well, so they want to completely undermine all of our civil liberties. And legally, I don't know how they're going to do it. Someone's got to challenge this in the courts.
And I get it. You need to have money to make roads nice. But we've gone so far down. Because I talk about late stage capitalism a lot, right?
Yeah, you hate it.
But a similar thing happens once public works get entrenched. And
that's bureaucracy.
There's so much waste now that the only way to fix it is to sort of start it over. Like, everything has so much waste, especially in California. If you remember that Bill Maher bit where he's like, how long do I have to wait to connect the solar panels that I put on my house to the grid? What did he wait, like 400 or 500 days? Maybe
It was
more?
ridiculous. Something that you could have got done in a weekend.
Right.
The work would have taken a weekend
And
at
it's
the most.
because they just have to make sure they're getting as much. Everybody's palm gets greased.
Yeah, there's all
enough.
these little departments, and the nature of bureaucracy is that it creates an organization.
Mm-hmm.
It creates like a group, a company, and that wants to live. It's just like an organism. So you're not going to just get rid of a department because think 10, 20, 30 people work there.
Mm-hmm.
That's their employment. So now they have a vested interest in keeping it open.
Right.
And this goes for everything. Like, honestly, you could solve a lot of our problems by paying these guys for the job, not by the day,
Right.
like you do with every other industry,
Yeah.
except maybe contractors. But even still, it's not like that.
Yeah.
So these things, but it's not going to happen because too many people's palms are getting greased.